Welcome to AG's Ace. The assassination of Sidhu Moosewala, the rapper from Punjab, has created a huge stir, not only in Punjab, but in many other parts of India. It strangely links the death of rappers in the United States. And if you look at some of their numbers and the unsolved cases, it just reflects to the extent of which violence has been perpetrated among the rappers. But let's begin with Sidhu. Now, first of all, the thing to remember is that he was a big fan of Tupac Shakur, and Tupac Shakur is still among the legendary rappers in the United States, and his rivalry with Biggie Smalls, who was better known as Christopher Wallace, is still very, very famous. In fact, a movie was done on them for an OTT platform. Their murders have still remained unresolved, and both were very, very big, not only in their lifetimes, but their legacy continues. Now, hip hop has a higher rate of homicide than any other genre of music, ranging from 5 to 32 times higher, which is a huge figure. And the killing of popular rapper Sidhu Moosewala on May 29th now links India to this circle, and pretty ominously at that. Prophetically, his last song, The Last Ride, featured an image from the crime scene of his idol, the slain rapper Tupac Shakur. And in that shot, Shakur was killed sitting on the front right-hand side of the car. And that's exactly how Sidhu Moosewala himself died, after being shot close to 30 times from an AK-47 rifle. Now, two studies in the mid-2010s concluded that murder was the cause of 51.5% of American hip-hop musician deaths, with the average age of death at 25 to 30 years of age. And at least 48 to 50 rappers have been killed in that manner. Some reasons cited for the homicide rate include poor background of many of the artists, criminal gang activity, drug use, poor pastoral care among artists and record labels. And in 2020, out of 77 rapper deaths, they examined more than 40 remained unresolved. So the unresolved portion is still pretty huge, and which just shows either poor policing or investigation that followed, or really no one really cared, and the cops are very happy to attribute it to gang activity. Now, coming back to Moosewala, he gained wide attention with his track So High. In 2018, he released his debut album PBX1, which peaked at 66th on the Billboard Canadian Albums chart. He spent quite some time in Brampton, Canada, but remained very rooted to his village in Punjab. He was also known for his controversial lyrical style, often promoting gun culture, while also challenging religious sentiments. And he had faced legal challenges for promoting gun culture and using inflammatory and inciting lyrics in his songs. As of 2022, there were 4 ongoing criminal cases. Moosewala then later, before the last Punjab elections, he joined the Congress and contested against Vijay Kumar Singla of the AAP. Vijay Singla won, became a minister, and as you know, he was later sacked by Bhagwant Mann on grounds of corruption. So those are interesting links to remember. Moosewala also was pro-Khalistani, and in December 2020, he released the single Punjab, My Motherland, in which he glorified the slain Khalistani leader Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. The song also includes visuals from a speech made by Khalistani supporter Bharpur Singh Balbir in the late 80s. His killing has triggered many questions in India regarding why his security was downgraded by the AAP government, and it was also publicly announced. Within a little over 24 hours, he was killed. Despite having a bulletproof vehicle, why was he moving around in an ordinary SUV, which was unprotected? How did the assassins have prior knowledge about his movement? Because CCTV footage is constantly showing how a car tailed him in his last moments. So obviously someone on the inside or someone very close to Moosewala was leaking information. Now, while the politics continues to rage after the killing of Moosewala, generations of rappers overseas have been indicted for selling drugs to get out of poverty, and find overnight success. Possibly the most celebrated feud also took place between Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie Smalls, and Tupac Shakur, one from the east side, the other from the west side. And again, like I said earlier, they were close friends, but later on there was a fallout, and the fallout was quite bitter. And both attacked each other in their songs. Tupac Shakur more than Biggie attacked him in whatever he sang after that. Both were killed in a very short span of time. There were multiple charges. First of all, Tupac was killed and he was gunned down. And after that, insinuations are made against Biggie Smalls. And when Biggie visited LA, again, he was warned not to do that, but he went. He was quite close to Puff Daddy, better known as P. Diddy later. He did not survive. He was also gunned down at night. So this happened pretty rapidly. And it was also the turf war between the east side and the west side, which spiraled out of control. In many ways, the assassination of Moosewala completes the picture in this case. And there is a strange kind of link, because in Moosewala's case, a person called Goldie Brar, a gangster who's apparently holed out in Canada, close to the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. Again, Lawrence Bishnoi is in jail but operates out of prison through his henchmen. So it's a bit of a turf war, and there is also insinuation that Goldie Brar, in his post, has said that one of the managers of Moosewala was the trigger to the killing of Akali leader Vicky Middu Kheda and his cousin Gurlal Brar. And Middu Kheda was shot dead in Mohali last year. Brar was gunned down in Chandigarh. And according to Goldie Brar, Moosewala knew about it and was in some ways allegedly involved in those killings. Now, that's an insinuation, all right. Also, it's interesting to remember that some of the biggest music stars in the US have been shot to death. Sam Cooke, Selena, John Lennon, Marvin Gaye among them. Numerous rap and hip-hop luminaries have also died in the same way. More recently, names have popped up like Nipsey Hussle and Pop Smoke. A 2015 study out of Australia, in fact, computed that slightly more than half the rap and hip-hop artists who had died up to that point were homicide victims. Many rappers had a premonition about their death, as Biggie Small did, and I quote, he mentioned that in one of his songs, that I don't want to live no more. Sometimes I hear death knocking at my front door. Apparently, in one of his last songs, Sidhu Moosewala made a reference to a similar premonition that he might not live long, and that death also faces him. And that is exactly how he went. So while politics rages on one side, with the AAP government being attacked for withdrawing the security of so many people, announcing it publicly, which many people, many opposition leaders thought it was completely out of line. The fact is that now the legacy of someone like Sidhu Moosewala is being talked about as a rapper, call it gangster rap, or whatever you may say, someone who promoted gun culture, who was pro-Khalistani. And yet, the manner in which he was killed raises questions. He had millions and millions of fans who remember him, who are talking about him. And does this raise a larger question about future rappers in India? That is the thing to watch out for. Thanks for watching.